What's up, YouTube? This is Howard Talks. Like and subscribe. So today is World Storytelling Day. As Google describes it, it is a global celebration held annually on March 20th that promotes the art of oral storytelling. So on this particular day, I'm just going to go back to my past and tell a story. Now, this story is about motivation and willingness to try to do better. Now, I'm going to go back to 8th grade. We'll go back to 8th grade. 8th grade, I was in my math class. I had this math teacher, and I'm gonna say her name or whatever. But and overall, she was a good math teacher. But a couple of people had doubts or whatever. But when I was going to school, math wasn't particularly my favorite subject. Not by a long shot. Just was not one of my particular favorite subjects. Now, it's like I can do it long enough if I focus long enough on it to care about doing it. But in this particular class, I really didn't care. I was just a class clown. Just didn't do the math. Just didn't do the work. Just didn't want to do it because I don't know, I didn't like math. So she calls people up there. Now this is around the ending of the grading period. So she calls us up there, how they tell you what your grade is and all that other type of stuff. So she gets to me and she says, "You know what, Howard? I'm just going to see you next year. Don't even worry about it. You already know what your grade is. I'm just going to see you next year." I said, okay, well, whatever. So I went back to my desk. And I don't know what it was about that particular statement. "I'll just see you next year." That really pissed me off. And the more I thought about it, the more I got pissed off about it. Because for one, I didn't like her. Didn't like the math teacher. And two, I don't want to see you next year. So the next day I came in there, I was ready to work. So I came in there, got my book open to the page that she told me to told us to open to and everything. During the midst of the teaching, so she's cracking jokes and stuff, talking about, "Oh, Howard is paying attention today. He has his book open and everything." And in my mind, I'm saying other stuff to this teacher, but I ain't saying it out loud because I'm trying to get her not to throw me off my focus or whatever. So, she goes here and goes through the assignment or whatever, and then, at the end of the class or whatever, she gives us assignment to have turned in tomorrow or whatever, homework. So the next day I came in there, I had my homework, and then she makes a big old spectacle about it, talking about, "Hey, look, you guys, Howard has turned in his first assignment." I ain't say nothing. But as time goes by, because this is like second quarter or whatever. So, two more semesters and the year's done or whatever. So, what I'm saying? I made it my business to keep on working. And at the same time as I'm getting the lesson, I'm also helping my sister, who's also in my class too. Now, my sister was a little bit smarter than me, but at this particular subject, you know what I'm saying, I got the upper hand. So I was trying to help her, you know what I'm saying, get her lesson and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So towards the end of the school year, you know, and even though throughout the me turning in my work and everything, because after a while she stopped making fun of me, because I guess she realized that I was serious about trying to get through this class or whatever. So towards the end of the school year, towards the end of the semester or whatever, she calls us up to tell us what our grade was. I had a B in that class. And in my mind, I said, I'll see you later. And your ass ain't seeing me next year. And I walked out of there because I was done with the class, because, you know, I was transitioning over to high school or whatever. But the moral of the story is, you got to stop playing around at some point in time, and you try to get serious. And that as hard as it is to get through the 7th and 8th, and especially through 9th and 12th, on that particular day, her telling me that I'll just see you next year, that was prime motivation for me to get through this class right here. Like, you know what? I don't want to look at you next year. And just for you saying that phrase right there, I made it my business not to look at you next year or whatever. And we can't say we didn't like each other. It's just the fact that in this class, I wasn't doing well, and she's trying to teach the class, and I didn't care about learning or whatever. But I made it my business to learn just enough to get this B, to get out of this class, so I won't have to be looking at you next year. So me transitioning over to 9th grade into high school or whatever. But I made that a motivational fact that I ain't gonna see you next year. I have to work hard and stop messing around. And I tried, and you know, I think still within there was, look, I think still through there I missed a few assignments, but by accident, because I was late. Because I think at one time I wasn't paying attention to when she said everybody turned in their assignments or whatever, and I had the assignment. It was in my book and I couldn't find it or whatever because it was folded up in between some pages or whatever. But then when I found it and I tried to turn it in, she wouldn't take it. I said, okay. I said, that's just one minor slip up or whatever. But throughout the rest of that year, I turned in them assignments and stuff. And I was not messing around. I just, like I said, I made it my business to pass that class. And I had to look at her next year. So, yeah, that is my story for today, for World Storytelling Day. I just wanted to hit y'all with a story from my past. So, like and subscribe. Tell me what y'all think.